What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the Out Loud podcast in conjunction with the Out Loud anthology from Red or Green Books. I would hold up a copy, but I sold them all. I sold them all. I
Oh,
sold them all. But you can still get your copy on redorgreenbooks.com. That's red, READ, or greenbooks.com. Uh, today, you got me and myself, my co-host Star Child. Star Child, what's going on?
Doing good.
Good, good. And we got our feature, Chiina Bloodmire. China, two eyes, better to see you with Bloodmire, like the vampire. I don't know. I tried to do her little intro.
a hybrid witch. I appreciate you. Look, you got all the way right there. Looking, that means you be paying attention just like this much. I
A little,
appreciate you.
yeah, a little bit, a little bit.
It's appreciated.
Um, so today we're gonna get into what China does and their work. But first, I gotta get on my soapbox. Y'all know I do this. And my soapbox is that Tuesday, November 5th, is voting. I need you guys to get out and vote, especially as members of the LGBTQIA plus 2S community. We need to get out there. And I know a lot of times we do that not me thing, but if legislation is passed on our trans brothers and sisters, or they thems, or however they identify, it's only a matter of time before they come after you. So, not trying to sway anyone's vote, but whatever you believe, make sure that you vote. However, if you vote one way, I will tell you you cannot call yourself an ally. Um, but that's my soapbox. Make sure you make it to the polls on Tuesday. There's a lot riding on this election, not only just rights, the genocide in Gaza, that's really been messing with me. I don't think we have an answer
Yep.
to it with this election, but all we can do is vote and try to make a change somehow.
Right.
That being said, um, today again we have Chiina Bloodmire, uh, a and I may have self-proclaimed queer, but I feel like they have told me before that they were queer. So, what are your pronouns, China? I don't want to mess it up.
Um, to answer that full on, I'm gonna just say she, her. Outside. She, her. Yeah, she, her outside. But yeah, I am Aaron as fuck. Yeah, like, yeah, very, very. I feel like that is, yeah, I am 100 million%. It's just everything that you just said. Sorry, had me in a
Mm,
space of like I've thought about all the individuals that I've dated. Um, so yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry. Put me in a space of like I got a couple days, bro. Like that's it, that's all.
yeah. I
Um,
don't I don't remember. I mean, other than the 2020 election, I've never had an election be so anxiety inducing.
oh my God.
I don't
I can't agree.
and I feel like I'm being gaslit. You know what I mean? Like I feel like maybe I'm the dumb one. Like why don't I understand it? Because everybody else is so gung ho, and I'm just like,
No,
huh?
I don't usually speak on anything political.
Mhm.
So I will refrain from doing so 100% into this particular, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But yeah, my views have been the way that they are since I was 9 years old. And
Mm,
I've wanted to relinquish my citizenship actually for that period of since then, and I still want to do so now. Um,
hmm
and so I do agree when it comes down to the feeling gaslit. I remember a lot of things. I was in third grade when the tower situation happened. I was very conscious at that age. I was conscious prior to then. I'm still very conscious now. And the mindset that I've always had when it comes down to where we live um, has never been, hey, I'm for where I live. I come
Right.
from a family of people that were not born in this country at all. So to be first generation here or like half second generation half first generation because like half of my uncles and aunts and parents were like born in another country and the other half were born here. So it's like a mixed situation. Um, I agree
Mm,
with the gaslighting. I agree with the fact that there's never any actual or real awareness, especially on a minute scale. It's like when it comes down to local elections and stuff of that nature. Um, the simplest way for me to put this is it seems like there are multiple IKEA floorsmen fighting for a managerial position at Applebee's, and none of them have
mm.
any fucking experience.
Oh, nice.
And so that's the easiest way for me to describe what I have always felt in regards to any election.
Mhm.
Um, and so, as far back as I
Mm,
can remember, and then even consciously when I had the ability to vote, I have never felt good in regards to whichever way that it was supposed to go. It's never felt like, oh, this is a wonderful decision. It doesn't feel good
Right,
when you realize that
hmm
if it doesn't feel good in either aspect of life.
right,
Um, it's like, hey, do you want potatoes or do you want broccoli? And it's like, actually, I can't eat either of those things. I'm really allergic.
right.
I really would prefer to just go home and not eat anything. But no, you have to have potatoes or broccoli. And it's like, but I don't like either one of those things, and I don't
Right.
want to eat either one of those things. Actually, I'd rather just eat air. I'm okay with that. And then it turns into a so you don't care about vegetables conversation.
Yeah.
And
mm,
and so that's why I've gotten into numerous arguments ever since I was about 15, 16 years old. All of my history teachers, government teachers, they thought that I was an overly opinionated Black woman at that age. Um,
hmm
and I am
mm.
still an overly opinionated Black woman. um, Still. And so the way that I feel about any election is exactly that.
Okay.
It's providing a large mass of people with a false hope of what democracy is quote unquote supposed to be.
I'll take that. I'll take that. I wasn't trying to drag you into my political
No,
conversation.
I hear
That
you.
was
I
more
just
for
have
the
a thing where
Spotify listeners that they get out on things.
I have a thing where I have to put my 2 cents in on something that, yeah,
Yeah.
no, so that's just, no, I don't
Well,
feel
and
dragged in. I don't feel dragged in at all. I
yeah.
purposefully was like, hey, I
Hey,
like chicken.
let's go.
And it just, came back, I just,
Right. I could eat
you
that
know,
broccoli or potatoes. Yeah. But
yeah,
yeah, I know, and I really appreciate just we're just getting in, like going in with being authentic about what the fuck is going on, and like, I mean, I've got, you know, I just decided, I was going to follow all these, Gaza producers on my Instagram, because I don't know what the hell to do, but I'm like, well, y'all are asking for people to follow you, so I'm going to follow you, and that's what I look at every day, you know, and it's
Yeah,
like,
and like
and
like I said, it's,
and I'm like, you know, I'm just so angry at the Democrats, like I'm just so angry, so angry at a lot of
everything.
things, a lot of people, and just that, you know, and in part, yeah, and so, but yeah, I mean, I just think that's our reality right now, like,
right.
and I mean, I'm really interested in kind of knowing more about, China, like your perspective, like, are you I tend to lean pretty anarchist, in the sense of like wanting to have decentralized local power, but like with a collectivist, kind of framework for it, but not like I'm not about like, I just don't think we can overthrow the state, like I'm just kind of like we gotta make
I
some
I
communes or something on a local level or something. Yeah, I'm curious about your perspective.
I feel like in order to make an executive decision like that, we would have to study other civilizations who did exactly that. Um,
Mm,
and I've done that. Hence why
mm,
I've had the mentality that I've had for a very long time. Um, I've created my own society through my own works of literature for exactly that reason. Um,
mm,
and when it comes down to like what you said, quote unquote, dismantling things, it's written. It's written because we have the ability to do it. It's just people feel like they're going to be alone. Someone asked me recently, why do I feel like things haven't changed? And I said, I don't think people are angry enough. No one is
Mm,
angry.
right,
No one is
right,
angry enough. And I don't know what's going to take for it to take for people to be angry enough. Because I've been
right.
angry my entire life and I've been falling on deaf ears my entire life. And so for people to be like,
Mm,
oh, this is the reality of what's going on right now, it's like, no, this has been going on since before then.
yep,
This has been my
yep,
reality my entire life. I grew up in New York
right,
City. You feel me? Like this is what reality has always been. I am a young Black woman.
right.
And despite what my face looks like, I am over the age of 30. And my reality
Mm,
has been this. My
right.
grandmother is still, my grandparents are still alive. My grandfather was 27 years old when Martin Luther King was shot. My grandmother was 17 years old and they still chilling in New York. You feel me? They're still here.
Mm,
And so
yep.
for people to say that, oh, this was so long ago, or for certain things like, and I'm only bringing up MLK as a very blanketed, generalized statement as to how this shit is
Right,
not, this is not a what's it called? This is not something that's happening right now. This is
right.
something that's been happening. My grandfather didn't have certain abilities, and he's watching those things happen all over again, or the
Yeah,
ability or the
history
possibility of
repeats
certain
itself.
things. Yeah. And so the only way
Right.
for you to have no repetition or no pattern, like when the only way for you to disrupt the pattern is for you to identify it.
Hmm.
And it's like the only way for you to identify it is to put that situation in a therapeutic state where you are, you're bringing awareness to what's the problem.
Right.
Um, And I think that the hardest person or the hardest group of people to get into therapy is your parents.
Yeah.
So, of course, your country is not going to go into therapy.
Right.
A good
I
way to say
mean, yeah, it's like I totally agree with you, and it's kind of like, I mean, I don't know, but
Oh,
I mean, I guess the thing that I wonder about is like about being angry enough, you know, the thing I wonder about is like, I mean, I hate to say this, like I don't want to manifest anything, but like if fucking asshole wins, you know, then I mean, he's gonna blow up our economy. Like it's gonna like there's gonna be like supply line issues. Like people are gonna like it's gonna be crazy chaos. And you know, he tries doing all this gimmicky tariff stuff and whatever. And I don't know. I mean, I guess like the silver lining is like I think that might actually put us in a revolutionary situation. Like I don't think much can because you know we've got like all these people just sitting on the couch watching sports and shit, you know, was like such a genius invention to have, you know, spectator sports just like take over, you know. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm stoned, so I'm rambling. It's your interview. I mean to be all like, you know, going on a soapbox and everything, but yeah, like I really want like I'd love to learn more about, you know, you talking about like, you know, creating the society and yeah, I really I really resonate with that. Like everything
yes.
that you're saying.
So, China, for those that don't know, is the current Grand Slam champion out of Pittsburgh, PA. But not only are they a poet, um, she does have a collection of books with the community is the Bloodmires, if I'm correct, right?
the family is.
Yes. Can you talk about that a little?
Oh my. That goes back to long, 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 long time ago. I started writing about the Bloodmires probably, I want to say in fifth grade, going into sixth grade type of energy. That was the first time that my family was homeless. Um, by other family. So it was like a familial situation that put us in that state. And so this is my adult mind looking back on it now to be like, I think that is why I started writing about those people. I wrote about or created a group of individuals that I actually liked and wanted to live with, quote unquote. Um, it was back then that I started role playing. And I don't mean in a BDSM situation at that time. But it was back then, and I started role playing. I did text-based RPGs, role playing type of energy, where we would go back and forth with various story types, replying to one another after we or created a setting together in a particular world. Let's say you wanted to be a werewolf, and I wanted to be a vampire, and Star Child wanted to be a fairy. And next thing you know, we were just three cool people writing a story together. And just so happened that we all three live in as roommates, I don't know, in New York City. And now you're a barista, I work at IKEA, and Star Child works at the library. And we're just and that's how we would create that little story together. That's
Oh
what I
my
used
God,
to
that
do.
sounds amazing.
That just came off the top of it real quick. I don't know where that came from, but that was that was what I was doing as a kid. And
Wow.
my base setting was the Bloodmires. So there are five of them. Chiina being the quote unquote head of the family. I am not Chiina. My name is Tiara. Hi, nice to meet you. But I do carry Chiina as my quote unquote persona when I'm outside. She is the only lady in the family. So we have Chiina Bloodmire, and then under
Oh.
her there are twin brothers named Saji and Kashmir, and then there are two younger brothers named Aiden and Kaname. And so all of them are completely different individuals. You can tell that they're related because they do enjoy similar activities the same way that you would with your siblings, but there's things that y'all just do that is just your own thing. Um, they all have different mannerisms and their own likes and dislikes. And whenever people ask me questions about them individually, those individuals are answering on their own. um, After many years of doing this and living with these people, mentally speaking, and writing about them, they've been married to so many different people. They've been in so many different scenarios that people like they've lived. And I've come to find out that this is potentially possibly called tulpamancy, which is
Ooh.
a very old ancient practice of in a sense, I want to say giving it the most watered down explanation, giving your imaginary friends the ability to actually be people, or they end up becoming people
Mm.
through the life that you've given them. And the Bloodmires are exactly
Wow.
them. I created the country that they come from. It's called Leftaria. Um, Wrote about that back in 2013 was the first time I believe that I wrote about Leftaria. Um, and I wrote that they've been around since 3313 BCE. Back in high school, I studied and still do even now. But back in high school, it was heavy is when it started. I was introduced to, the Stone Age and the Bronze Age, the Aztecs, the Incas, the Mayans, the Mesopotamians, and looking into those civilizations and cultures is what helped me craft the civilization and culture behind Leftaria itself. Um,
Mm.
and so they have a mixture of a Mesopotamian and an Aztec, I want to say civilization. They have city states and stuff of that nature. In Leftaria, the agriculture is something that I pay very close attention to as they live in a rainforest type of climate. But it is a magical place that was put here, basically. It's a sentient island,
Mm.
Leptaria. It was put here by a group of gods. Their mothers are the energy of a different moon and the energy of a different earth. And they came
Mm.
together and they had a baby and they were not supposed to. The other entities in their area were angry about that and told them to discard of said baby. And the baby was Leftaria, like I said, a sentient island. And so they put that
Ooh.
island in a different realm, which is here.
Mm.
And so
Whoa.
um, that island was a quote unquote lone empty space for quite some time. And the other entities ended up finding it. And then they set it on fire. Them setting it on fire activated its ability to create its first being, which was China. And so she came out of Leftaria and, just like with a childlike mind, created other things and other beings of her own, the same way that children would. Um, the same way that I did. So as I got older, a lot of people started asking me like, okay, what are these people? And I was like, well, they're magical beings that were born from a sentient island that found out by a bad situation that the consumption of blood fuels their abilities. That's the easiest way for me to basically tell people what they are. They are hybrids, and that's it. That's all. With ancient knowledge, and they used to trade their ancient knowledge with other ancient civilizations for other things that would help further progress their civilization. I hope that answered the question of what the hell the Bloodmires are.
It does. It does. 'Cause
that is so rad. Like, wow. Like yeah, just like you've got this whole, civilization, like you said, and it's just like, you know, yeah, so what, like, as you're talking about it, I'm kind of like hearing sort of, just the lines between, imagination.
Is he freezing on your end? Because he
yeah,
freezing
he
on mine.
froze. He
Oh.
froze.
And so I'm just really interested in, did I like glitch out?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
did.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I was I guess what's it like to kind of because you kind of, I mean, it sounds like you live in that reality. Like that's kind of like
I do.
it's not just a story that you're writing, like it's a story that you're living.
Yeah, so that's why so from when I was young I would disappear and go to wherever they were and they would talk to me about stuff and then I would come back and write all the stories and stuff of that nature that they would tell me. I often still do this now, but it started when I was very young. Like I said, I would listen to music and for some reason my world would start to melt away when I listened to a particular song and I would keep seeing the same scene play over and over and over until I wrote it down from beginning to end. So when I was in seventh grade is when I started sharing, like I basically started using my allowance to go buy marble notebooks from Family Dollar and I would write those stories in those books, and then I would go to school the next day and I would give them to my
Mm,
homegirls and stuff like that, and they would read them and then I would continue to do that every single day. um
wow.
and so I have lived in the places that they frequent. That is why right now I have the blueprints to, I had to find an architect that would create the blueprints for businesses for me that I started in 2013, as well as the family home and all that jazz. So these
Mm,
are actual places that I am manifesting into physical spaces in real life. Um,
mm,
yeah. So the speakeasy that the family runs in the 1920s, I have the blueprints for that. Their familial home in the 1920s in New Orleans, I have the blueprints for that. The quote unquote map markings of what the country looks like and the city state that I created in America, as well as what Leftaria looks like. I have all of those things. Um,
mm,
I have an extensive language dictionary, a cultural
mm.
guide. It's a lot that I've done. And so yeah, I live there. I speak to them. I breathe them. Hence why I said my pronouns are she, her, but behind closed doors, I guess in a sense is they, them. But yeah, so
Yeah, just would you categorize it? So I have a divine counsel that is like there's seven spirits that live in my body,
mhm.
basically. Like I'm plural, or is the way I put it. Like is do you have that kind of relationship with them, or is it what's the kind of differentiation between you and them, or is it like that they're a distinct them and there's you, or is it are they the collective that is you?
So we share a vessel,
Yeah.
because there's them and then there's many others that are not them. So,
Mm,
so that's the difference. I share a vessel with them, but I don't share a vessel with the others that are around me.
okay.
So we
Cool.
all, yeah, there's a lot. Um, and I say we don't share a vessel because when I was younger, there were many Bloodmires. Um, that
Mm,
are, yeah, there are many Bloodmires. They're just not here, and
right.
they're here but they're not here. And so in this particular vessel, there are six of us specifically.
Mhm, right.
Um, but if I were to, like I said, count the people in their world, people that I've been writing about since I was young, that
Hmm.
fill in this entire storyline and things of that nature. Because to me, like I said, these are people I've been writing about since I was a kid. It's more than just the Bloodmires. Or people that I've
Right.
been writing about since different parts of my life as if they're actually real people. The entire series of Bloodmire itself, only Bloodmire has about 32 to 35 people.
Yeah.
And that is just, like I said, one particular storyline that I say storyline to basically, like I said, give it the most watered down,
Mm,
generalized way for people
right.
to understand or be able to ingest what I'm talking about.
And then now
Yeah.
recently you've made a huge switch. You still do your authoring of that, but you've been doing a lot of poetry. I even got a copy because I'm a child, and it was called Hi Coochie, and I was like,
See,
Coochie, I
and
gotta have
this
it.
is where the conversation is going to get extra exciting because you think that I did a switch, but I did not in any aspect of life. Haikuchi actually is one books that takes place in New Vampton, which is still connected to the Bloodmire universe. It is actually the state that they were granted in 1961.
Hmm.
Um, and New Vampton is the state. The city that Haikuchi takes place in is Lamia Heights. Is where Haikuchi takes place. And the Book of Ku takes place in New Vampton as well, manifesting her. All of these are all Easter eggs that are present day Easter eggs to show you how they got to have this particular land. But
Hmm.
everything that comes before this, because everything that I'm talking about, like Bloodmire, has not been released yet. They're going to be released in November of 2025.
Hmm.
So all of what I just told you is pretty much a lot of it is available on my Patreon at the moment, like behind the scenes. But there was no actual switch. I've been writing poetry and writing in general for over the same period of time, I want to say.
Okay.
Um, Leftaria, Lamia Heights, New Vampton, all the different areas that I've created are very heavy in regards to spoken word, in regards to scribing, in regards to writing. They're very orated society, I want to say.
Hmm.
They do a lot. They do a lot. I grew up in a Jamaican household, like Jamaican as fuck. So there's a lot of reggae, jazz, energy
Oh,
there.
hell
I
yeah.
my sister was a theater kid, so I did a lot of fake singing with her. And so coming up with I remix a lot of things that I've heard from when I was a kid, and or have come up with my own, um, you know, I want to say reiterations or versions of things that exist here for people to be able to be like, oh, this sounds familiar or this has a familiar type of tune to it. Um, so yes, it does seem like there was a switch or a swap of some sort, but in the 1920s, Saji, one of China's brothers, he did open a speakeasy, like I said, and he started his own band called Immortal Sound. Music is something that is very vital to the Bloodmires in
Mm,
general. Throwing parties is something that is for them, is their thing. It's basically how they trick their clientele into being fed off of on a regular, and they don't know.
Hmm.
Um, so it seems like it's a switch, but that story actually just takes place between two women that live in New Vampton and are not necessarily Bloodmires in any aspect of life, but they live in the world that the Bloodmires had the ability to create.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That is
And
that's
so yeah, so then the next book that comes after that, the Book of Ku, is the or scarier one or a horror one. That is the short story in the beginning with 101 haikus between it, and then the short story at the end, and it details things that the family has been doing. And this main character is you, reading a book that you're not supposed to be reading in a house that you're not supposed to be in.
hmm.
And
ooh.
Sounds like me.
yeah, so that, like I said, it seems like it's a switch, but everything still goes together in a way, or it does go together. And so those stories,
Nice.
like I said, are Easter eggs that still lead back to things that have yet to come out yet, even though those things take place in a previous time period. And so what I released this year is modern day.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So here's the
Yeah.
question that's going to take you down the rabbit hole. How does your queer identity play into this whole um I don't want to say concept, but this whole universe that you've created?
It plays into every aspect of it because I've it's made me question a lot of things since I was very young. Like I said, I've role played as multiple people. And embodying male characters versus different female characters is obviously something that you should probably be like, why is this something that I'm doing and then doing it well? Like, what is this? And so uh I had my first girlfriend at the age of like 14, 13, 14. Um, and then I dated various types of individuals since then. And now, like I said, I'm 31 now. And my my sexuality has played a vital role in every aspect of it because different family members have different things that they enjoy. Chiina Bloodmire being the Avuna, aka the leader of the country that they come from, she has always had the ability to have what she wants or what she prefers. So she has never had a bar on her preference. That's just how Leftaria was ran, or in her head, that's how it has been. Um, Her brothers Saji and Kashmir have always had a preference for a more feminine, female type of energy in person. Whereas Kaname has a lot of, he's very quote unquote straight, but he has different kinks, and his BDSM things have always, ever since I was young, he's been very much into different play. And that still is a thing and plays into a role or plays into the story in modern day Bloodmire, the one that I told you is supposed to come out next year. And then last but not least, Aiden, he's the one that at first I've always written him as quote unquote bisexual. And I put quotes on that because I recently, I want to say last year, came to the realization that I probably put my brother in a very small box. I put an ancient creature in a very small box of just bisexual. And after having a conversation with him, I don't think he really identified with that anymore. And then me having those conversations with them had me have conversations with myself like, okay, pansexual is not something that you've ever fit with, and your brother is not pansexual. This is not something that this ancient person or being can actually conform to or tie himself to. And so it was a lot of conversations like that. So it plays into a vital role in everything, because even in regards to the societal structure, there is no uh male and female in the sense of evenness, I want to say, in their society. It's an energetic situation. Like I said, the country, the island itself is sentient, so taking care of the island has no feminine or masculine energy or differences between it. um so even though Saji and Kashmir are outrageously masculine individuals in energy and in how they carry themselves in presentation, um Saji's ability to have an intuition, especially when it comes down to his mind, and he has this precognitive ability to foresee things. It shows that he's still tangibly connected to his feminine with ease. And then the same thing with Kashmir being as masculine and, like I said, as very much as he is, he still has a very quote unquote feminine connection to his emotional state. Aiden, the same thing with him, very masculine presenting individual, but he does have a softness to him and a garden like energy to him that gives off a I sit comfortably in my feminine energy. So my energy and myself, because I personally am a quote unquote, a lot of people feel like I'm a feminine presenting individual. Um, okay. I just feel like I'm pretty. That's what I am. I'm pretty. I don't know if I'm like, I don't know if I'm feminine because I could be somebody's son, you feel me? But in real life, I'm pretty. I could say that. Like I'm pretty. But as far as the whole like I'm feminine or I'm masculine, I genuinely feel like there's a healthy marriage between the two here. And I feel like my feminine energy has the ability to be masculine, and my masculine energy has the ability to be the feminine. And it's weird how they just have this weird DNA strand thing of how I envision it in my head. So how I've always viewed myself is how I view them. That they are people that refuse to be barred by things that are of this world because they are not of this world.
Mm.
So I have a question, and you don't have to answer it, but you have children as well. Do your children exist in this like Leftaria world, or do you kind of separate them from that?
So that is a very weird question. I don't want to say weird in a sense of like your question was weird. The way that I'm about to answer is weird because the answer is yes and no. This is layered as fuck. So this world existed before my children existed. This world existed before I ever thought about becoming a parent. This world existed, these goals and dreams that I had existed before the idea of becoming a mom.
Mhm.
So I need for the world to understand that I'm not doing this for my babies. Nothing
Right.
in regards to my writing is for my babies per se. it's for the lack of representation that I had when I was their age. It's still the lack of representation that we have, even though we have more, it's still not enough for me. Um, are my children in my story per se? Not necessarily, but they are. They're uh they're not in the story like my children's names and they're likely like their likeness, not necessarily, but the ideas of them existing on their own, plus a character that is quote unquote me, does exist in my story. That is not Chiina, that is not the Bloodmires in any aspect of life.
Okay.
And you don't meet them until I want to say probably like book 6 or 7 because of the storyline that they're actually a part of that is yeah. So yes, they are a vital part of the story. Yes, they are in the story, but they were not always a part of said story because they did not always exist in a yeah. So it's yeah.
Okay.
Did I answer that question?
You did. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But we've come to that time. So you have 15 minutes. You could read poetry. You could
Mm.
read anything.
Oh my
Showcase your
God.
work. You ain't got to take the whole 15 minutes. It's up to you if you want to do 10 minutes because you look like you're scared.
No, it's not scared. It's not that. I'm about to hope and see that I got this on this phone. Because if I got this on this phone, because this is my phone, the one that y'all looking at me, that's where I got the stuff at, right? So about to go into, I'm trying to see if I have Patreon on this phone because what I would like to read is hopefully on here. Um, yeah. So like I said, the first 8 chapters of Bloodmire is on my Patreon. So I'm excited to have like, I'm excited. I'm excited to just dive into everything that I do. I'm not exactly sure what like, am I yeah, which what you call it? If I should do poetry first because like I said, certain things kind of just go with each other, but they're all yeah, let me see, because I have poems that talk about weird shit around that time period, but aren't actually having to do with what's over there. Um, okay, so what I'm gonna read right now is a poem called Posse Erasure.
Okay.
Um, and this was a prompt actually, and this is what I mean by things just activate in my brain and make other shit start writing that have nothing to do with nothing, and I still make it come back and turn into a Bloodmire situation. Um, so let me tell you a story, and trust, it's gonna get gory. I might have to chill for a little in purgatory. I once had to silence 4 women. Wait, wait. Everything was cool in the beginning. Many nights of slow whining and fish skinning, jerking chicken in the kitchen with cool waters for swimming. Until they pushed limits that resulted in me standing over their bodies, the erasure of a posse. Now they sliced up like salami, their screams sharper than harpies, wishing they had chosen better hobbies. On the night of the eclipse, dried, stitched lips, too many emptied clips, legs spread open with broken hips, necks cracked like whips. One taste of her, my speech slurred. In her own blood, the second one was submerged. My vision blurred as the third one burned. Number 4, everything she got, she deserved. All of them silenced, I got the last word. Now I'm cold and full of dread. I'd rather y'all dead. I said what the fuck I said. So that is that piece. Posse Erasure, which is sounds crazy. And like I said, doesn't have anything to do with Bloodmire in real life, but it does. Um, so I want to read to y'all. I'm gonna read chapter 2. Actually, I'm gonna make you choose, Shocky. Do you want to hear chapter 1 or do you want to hear chapter 2? Chapter 1 is,
I want to hear
is
what's on your heart.
because like I don't know. That's why I'm giving you the option because my Gemini brain be like, and I'll be over like running.
Chapter two.
All right,
Chapter
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 two.
two. I'm just picking one.
there. Thank you. All right. Shit. All right. So chapter 2 is called Death Has Arrived. This is actually a really good chapter because it shows, I guess, or showcases the different characters and how they speak to one another. Um so Death has arrived. New Orleans, January. The SS Belle was a luxurious ocean liner that catered to hundreds of passengers monthly. This burgundy and white vessel screamed comfort, class, and affordability. Grand winding staircases, shiny oak pillars, and gold accents filled the interior. It was a beauty, though it lacked in size. Crystal chandeliers adorned the high ceilings, and the decor and feel of the ship was extraordinary, sensual even. The state-of-the-art kitchens and dining areas were almost always full. The food and drinks available satisfied the richest of men. Bursts of laughter, cheerful music, and the sounds of glass breaking could be heard from the deck above. The waves were calm tonight, and the gentle rocking that it provided the boat was soothing. The full moon was high in the sky, slightly hidden behind thin clouds. Saji Bloodmire stood about 6'5" and was muscular but not overly bulging. His complexion was as smooth as chocolate and dark as night. His locks were of medium width and reached the middle of his back. Most of the time they were kept out of his face by tying some of them together behind him. He was wearing a black button-down shirt that exposed the top of his chest. It was tucked into a simple pair of black slacks, paired with comfortable shoes that he would most likely be tossing the moment they hit land. A black coat was loosely draped over his shoulders. He had one ear pierced and a small gold hoop adorned it. Saji stood over a railing, staring down into the darkness. They had been on the water for almost 3 months now, and after the bullshit, he wanted to put Jamaica behind them. He gently closed his eyes, his breaths deep and mindful. For the first time in months, the water was drowning out his thoughts. The scent of fresh-baked salmon filling his nostrils, bringing back thoughts of home. Memories of his family taking turns cooking various meals. For just a sliver of a second, he could swear he heard the sounds of seagulls overhead, the cool water rushing over his toes, and an innocent woman resting on his chest. Saji laughed to himself. He rubbed at his beard roughly. He was in need of a cut. It'd soon come, he reminded himself. Saji had plans for their new home. Pushing away from the railing, he ventured to the upper deck to find his family. His shoes creased with each step, his mind riddled with worries. Saji scanned one half of the deck before his ears perked up at the sound of his sister. "Leave me alone." China's voice was feminine but rough. Her accent seemed to stem from the Caribbean, Jamaica to be exact. The more she spoke, the more one could hear something of another accent under her tongue. China was petite and very curvy. She had thick thighs and a rather large backside. Her skin was golden brown and often glowing. China's locks were the shortest in the family, reaching her shoulders. Dark brown, luscious and thick like strands of midnight. Though she appeared young in age, her energy seemed to hold the wisdom of ancient trees. She had strikingly dark and slightly hooded brown eyes and full lips with a cupid's bow. China's nose was on the broader side, rounded at the bottom with a delicately pierced septum. "It's simple," Kaname continued, eliciting a groan from their sister. Saji could sense an argument brewing as his eyes darted between China and Kaname, their younger brother. They were locked in a death glare as Kaname stood over her. China scoffed as she rested back into an immaculately designed chair. Saji was sure she had brought it up from the lower deck. "Where did you—" Saji didn't even bother to finish his sentence. "You can't just move the people them furniture." He shook his head only to receive a pout from her. "I've been here all night and no one has said a word," she said with a roll of her eyes, and Kaname waved off the conversation, interjecting. "You killed her," he said as more of a statement than a question. "I'm done with you chastising me," she fumed, slamming her hands down on the wounded arms of the chair. "I've said my piece already, Kaname." China spoke through her teeth, and Kaname rolled his eyes in disbelief. "You ain't said shit since you been up," Kaname retorted with a smirk. "What is the problem now?" Saji's words came from behind them, though his question was directed to his sister. "I thought I'd ask what really happened back home." Kaname's accent was thick, but his voice was not as deep as Saji's. "He keep following me around," China said, jabbing her finger at Kaname, and the corner of his lips tugged into a cocky smile. "We on a boat. The fuck you want me for go?" He replied dryly, and she waved him off, casting her locks over her shoulder. "Go swallow the water," she seethed. "Can you stop the shit for 1 day?" Saji sucked his teeth. "You know more than me," she mumbled to herself, cutting her eyes at Kaname again. "You didn't like the girl from morning," Kaname continued as he watched her lean back in the chair. "So, what that mean?" She shrugged his words off, drumming her fingers against the wood. He looked towards Saji and laughed. "That makes sense to you?" "I'm sure you enjoyed our more than the rest of we," China smirked. Saji put space between the pair by pressing the back of his hand firmly against Kaname's chest. Kaname's brows furrowed as he swiped at Saji's hand. This can't seem like the right place for this type of conversation. Saji gritted to his siblings. Though the small group of three were speaking in hushed whispers, Kaname's gestures were bringing about attention. You killed her, didn't you? China's eyes narrowed at her brother again. Since when me ever afraid for claim a body? What the fuck is really your problem? Her voice was icy as she hoisted herself up from the chair. Kaname licked his lips as if holding in a laugh. The fuck is my problem? The smile dropped from his face. Look at where we are, he continued. Middle of the ocean because of you. He sucked in a sharp breath and pulled a few of his locks and began using them to loosely tie the rest behind him. Kaname was roughly over 6 feet in brown skin, lean but muscular. Thick but shapely brows covered hooded eyes that held the most hazel jewels. His gaze was primal, yet sultry, all at the same time. The bridge of his nose was narrow, but flared out at the nostrils. Sorry, y'all. And his lips, full and pink to perfection. This is hard for Aloe, Saji cut in. Is it? Both Kaname and Chiina said at the same time. Kaname cackled, sidestepping to speak at his sister again. Not this again, Aiden mumbled. It had been the same back and forth for weeks now. Aiden Bloodmire, their youngest brother, stuffed his hands into his pockets as he had gotten closer to his siblings. Aiden stood to be almost 6 feet, and his locks were tied behind him as well, using a deep purple piece of cloth. His caramel complexion was warm and smooth. His nose was straighter, flared at the nostrils, and adorned with a gold septum piercing. His ears were slightly pointed, poking off the sides of his head. Aiden seemed to have come from a nearby smoking room. Yes, this again. Kaname was making a scene, his arms now flailing as he continued. We've been in the middle of the fucking ocean for months because of you, he yelled again. Saji was visibly annoyed. Other people on board were looking in their direction. We're here because of him, Chiina replied, now stepping towards Kaname, her fist balled. So what did it? Kaname asked, getting closer as if to challenge her. Who did it, Chiina? Kaname seethed, his words full of anger and resentment, visions of that day replaying in her head. The blood, the screams, the creatures. Chiina closed her eyes tightly, shaking the thoughts from her head. Of course you can't say. Kaname let out a soft laugh as if he was taunting her. You're such a good liar, he said while wagging his finger at her, slowly turning his head to Aiden. You don't think so? Kaname quirked a brow. Kaname quirked a brow. What the fuck? You don't think? Kaname quirked a brow, asking as he turned to Aiden, who only shook his head as a reply. I don't know why I fucked that up. What you gonna do, Kaname's voice was now dripping with sarcasm. A low growl could be heard as China's hand shot out to strike Kaname. And just as quickly, Aiden reached out and yanked her small body towards him. Saji stepped in between them both, locking eyes with Kaname. We don't know what happened, Saji said, now pushing Kaname further away. And she wasn't the only one dead, he whispered to Kaname's right. Of course, Kaname said softly, a stiff laugh erupting from him. Chiina sucked her teeth and snatched her free arm from her brother's grip. She tugged at the light coat that was draped over her shoulders. Saji and Aiden had to break them up several times over the last few weeks, and she was fed up, with the bickering, the running, the flashbacks of that day, all of it leading up to this. It haunted her dreams constantly, and while Kaname was usually annoying, if he was right about anything, it was that this was all her fault. From the moment Chiina awoke from her deep slumber, as Aiden had called it, Kaname had been angry about having to leave Jamaica. She glanced down at her chest, and though the vine-like marks had faded, she still had yet to gain back her full abilities. Mr. B, a man's voice rang out, filled with urgency, and Saji's head snapped towards it. The family's demeanor changed as a young gentleman approached them with quick steps. Whisking his hat from atop his head, slightly out of breath, he took his time before he began speaking in hushed whispers with Saji. They seemed to be catching up. The boat is ready for you now. That was all Chiina caught as she watched the exchange quietly. The younger gentleman led the family through a series of corridors, stopping in the stern of the ship. They all piled around the edge, staring down. Sirs, he looked down at the pocket watch. We have to worry. The captain is going to steal the boat for less than 10. Aiden stepped down into one of the free-fall lifeboats on the side of the ship, the young man following right after him. They both helped usher Chiina into the boat, allowing her to settle herself. Kaname moved forward, and suddenly an oar was pressed against his chest. Since you had so much energy earlier, Saji began, and Kaname sucked his teeth. You can help the man row, he finished, seeming to be vexed, keeping space between him and Chiina. We got about 2 or 3 hours of rowing, the man called to Saji, who gave him a sincere smile. I highly doubt that, Saji reassured him as he and Kaname clambered in. The holdback was released, and the medium-sized boat soon settled in the water. Saji retrieved a few slips of worn-colored paper from his pocket. 1X, Aiden asked as Saji attempted to get comfortable. Yeah, what we doing now? Kaname asked as he and the man matched rowing with ease. Saji began to scribble slightly on the papers, flipping through the sheets. We get to the lake. Soon, the SS Bell disappeared in the distance. And that's the end of that. Damn. Was that the whole amount of time? Hopefully that was the whole amount of time. Was that the whole
Yeah,
amount of time?
yeah, that was it. You got there. You got there.
There
That
we go.
was that was very the imagery. It made it like a little movie in your head. I
Oh
liked it.
yeah, I was there in the boat. Like I was, yeah, I was just
Who they
totally.
kill? Who they kill?
That's why you should have chose chapter one.
Oh, that's some
Mhm.
bullshit. Okay.
To answer your question, nobody.
Oh, okay.
So
Mhm.
nobody killed anybody. But that doesn't mean that somebody didn't get blamed for somebody dying.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, yeah, China didn't kill anyone, but she is being blamed. Um, the synopsis, I want it's not the synopsis, but the book blurb
Mhm.
when you're in the bookstore. Let me see if I can find that because that should be yeah. Um, it's short as hell. Sorry, just for 2 seconds. A stroll in the forest, a heated argument, a severed head. China's from a family that has powerful magic, but not even they can save her. Even after moving to New Orleans, she's still haunted by nightmares, death, and a curse that broke her family. Fixing it and repairing the damage now seems impossible, especially when her family's secret is a breath away from being exposed. Enemies come crawling out of the woodwork, murder veils everything in the city, and unshakable curses spell death. China must do everything she can to remove her root before it ruins her while fending off threats she never thought she would have faced. The only problem is no one has seen a curse like this before, and she's running out of time. And what caused all of this? A stroll in the forest, a heated argument, and a severed head.
I like it. I like it. I
Yeah.
like it a lot. Um, Very excited that we got to sit down and talk about this. Yeah, get your dance on. Get your dance on.
I was
Um,
nervous, but
oh, don't
yeah.
be nervous. Um, so thank you so much for coming on. Um, Everyone out there in Facebook land, YouTube land, Spotify land, go out and support China with the um, book she has out now, the House of Ku,
The Book
right?
of Cool.
The
See, you
Book of
still
Ku.
stuck in the house. You still at the house. She like,
It's
look, that's me. I'm reading that book in the house that I ain't supposed. You just want to be in the house, Shocky. She
always
just
the Book of Ku and Haikuchi, their brother books.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, other ways, get on that Patreon, get to learn about what's going on over there.
There's a
Um,
lot.
if I wasn't broke, I'd be on there right now because I need to know what's going on.
Yeah, because you was like, so who? Like, you just wanted to get to the end. She said, so who killed who? Because that's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, I'm
What
I'm
happened?
bad. I'm bad with books, like those type of books. But when it becomes a movie, because I know it's going to, I'm gonna watch it.
There's people who are like, this shit sound like it's about to be a video game, and I'm like, well, damn. Like, it would only seem fitting that the video gamer would make a RPG, right? I guess I
Could
need
be a
to.
video, yeah, could be a
Yeah.
video game.
So yeah, this is. Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your universe. Like I'm so inspired by it, like
Oh,
and just the implications for, because I had a world when I was a kid, and I kind of put it on a shelf. Like I literally had a planet that I was from, because that's why I'm the Star Child. Like I'm from a different galaxy, you know. And so now I'm like, oh, maybe I should go back to that. Like it
maybe you
actually
should
like
go visit them and be like, hey, y'all. Make sure they don't like
because
throw
we
eggs at you or something. But like,
yeah, we had these wolf people. Like I was raised by these wolf people on my planet. And I never told you. I haven't told anyone that like since I was 9. You know.
Like, no, maybe you need to go back and say hello and hope that they don't be like, why you came back? You done left us anyway. Like, maybe, you gotta,
Ooh.
yeah, you gotta,
Okay.
write
Okay.
them a letter first or
Yeah.
something. Be like, dear Mr.
What?
President, like,
Right. Right. Okay. Fair.
write a letter
Fair. I
first before you
received that.
just go back over there.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. But this is great. Thank you very much.
I'm done with y'all. But yes, thank you both for showing up. I don't know what's happening next month. We'll do something. We'll have someone. Again, everyone out there, make sure you go vote on Tuesday. Um, I don't care who you vote for, just make sure that you put your voice out there. Because when I burn this bitch down, never mind. But I don't want to hear I didn't vote, is all I'm saying, when this shit starts to, burn a little bit. But again, follow your dreams. Again, we're here promoting queer authors, poets, writers, creatives, and it's been a good journey this year. This year we've highlighted now 11 artists, amazing artists, creatives, that are all a part of our community, and I'm very thankful for that. So yes, get yourself a copy of Out Loud from RedderGreenBooks.com. Get you a copy of The Book of Ku and Haikuchi. And when that other series comes out in 2005, 2025,
See,
go
so
get
yeah, I'm supposed to be dropping 2 books in December, but
next month.
no, yeah, and so by the end of this year, I should have 5 books out, and by the end of next year, we should be at 11. But
Ooh. And
so
here I
yeah,
am struggling to get this chapbook together.
listen, man. This is what happens when you've been writing since 1910, and you're finally like, let me read this shit back. This makes sense. That's what's happening at the moment. This still makes sense. Nah, this is dumb. This we can't use this. That's what's happening at the moment. It's like, yeah, nah, you wrote this, but you also wrote 4 other things that are the same exact thing. Like, so no, like me going through the language has been wild because I don't know why it didn't dawn on me to start, I guess, categorizing things or putting
Right,
things in particular categories and stuff of that nature. And then it's like this is an ancient language as well. So it's like there's certain things that while words exist on their own, there's certain phrases that don't exist. So it's like they have a word for puff and pass, but puff puff pass is not a thing in Leftaria. They'd be like, what the hell is even they would look at you like we don't know what that means, even though you just put those words together.
right,
And I have like, let's say in the dictionary right now, there's like 3 different ways to say ocean. And I'm like, that is not, that's, we gotta just, we just gotta pick one. Like, so I'm just scrolling through pages and pages and pages and pages of words. And I'm like, bro, you have 3 different words for sky. You got like 2 different words for things that like rock, shit like that, like simple stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, maybe we can make this a pebble. Or so, like I'm trying to figure out how to make it more cohesive and
yeah.
and whatnot. So I'm excited. But yeah, that's the goal is to drop 2 books that are also, like I said, modern day and a part of the same world and all that jazz. So yes,
I'm
yes.
looking forward to it. I've got to try to leave my house, but
Oh,
we'll see. All
scream.
right. Start telling anything you want to say before I turn off the recording.
No, I'm good. Thank you so much. Thank you for just inspiring my imagination and just bringing this beautiful universe into our world. You know, like we, yeah, I want to, um, I'm just excited about how it's going to continue to impact things on this planet. Um, as the sentient island continues to reach out with her love.